Unreliable employees like you don't deserve a place here. You're fired. We've already cleared out your desk. The words glowed on my phone screen, cruel and sharp as a scalpel. I blinked twice, thinking the morphine haze was making me see things. But no, the message was real. My boss, Edward Collins, had just ended my career with a single text while I was lying in a hospital bed, stitches still fresh from surgery. My name is Melissa Carter. I'm 36 years old, and until that moment, I was senior client director at Holstrom Analytics, a Chicago-based financial consulting firm. I had spent the last 7 years building that division. Late nights, cross-country flights, and missed holidays, all to secure multi-million-dollar clients who kept our company relevant in a crowded market. And now, in the dimly lit ward of St. Mary's Hospital, I was discarded like a broken tool. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Not from the surgery or the pain in my abdomen, but from the sheer humiliation. My chest tightened, and I felt tears press against my eyes. How could he do this now when I was most vulnerable? My family was in the waiting room, worried sick. My body was fragile. And Edward had chosen this exact moment to cut me off. I was about to turn the screen face down when I heard a low chuckle from the bed beside me. The man there had been wheeled in less than an hour earlier, pale but calm, his left arm hooked to an IV. He tilted his head toward me. Bad news? His voice was gravelly, but there was a trace of humor beneath it. I turned slightly, squinting at him through the dull hospital light. He was older, maybe in his mid-50s, with silver at his temples, and a face that looked both tired and sharp at the same time. I had noticed his admission papers earlier when the nurse left them briefly at the foot of his bed. Daniel Whitmore. The name had triggered something in my memory, but the drugs had dulled my recall. I just got fired, I whispered, my throat raw. From a hospital bed? His brow furrowed, then he gave a short laugh that didn't quite reach his eyes. That takes a special kind of cruelty. I tilted the phone toward him so he could see the message. His gaze flicked over it once, twice. Then his lips curled into something between sympathy and recognition. Well, he said slowly, I thought this stay couldn't get any more interesting. The way he spoke, measured, confident, snapped something in my memory. I had seen his photo in Forbes. Daniel Whitmore, CEO of Arcus Partners, the very firm that had been our fiercest competitor for a decade. His company had been circling our client base for years, hungry to expand into sectors we dominated. And now here he was, in the bed next to mine, watching my boss's betrayal unfold in real time. I lay back, heart racing, not from pain, but from sudden clarity. Edward had always been paranoid about Arcus poaching his talent. He constantly reminded us that loyalty was non-negotiable. He had accused me more than once of being too friendly with rival executives at industry events. And yet, in his arrogance, he had handed me, on a silver platter, to the very man he feared most. Looks like your company doesn't value you, Daniel said, his eyes steady on mine. But I suspect your clients might feel differently. His words sent a shiver through me. He was right. Over the past 7 years, I had cultivated relationships with some of the most demanding corporate clients in North America. Relationships built on trust, long nights, and countless sacrifices. Edward thought he could simply erase me from those accounts, but he didn't understand the difference between contracts and loyalty. I pressed my lips together, replaying the message in my mind. Unreliable employees like you. Edward knew exactly what he was doing. He wanted to brand me as weak, incapable, replaceable. He thought firing me in a hospital bed would keep me silent, humiliated, too broken to fight back. But instead, something inside me hardened. The pity I'd felt for myself moments earlier was gone. In its place, a colder, sharper determination took root. Daniel was still watching me, waiting for my response. I realized then that this was not just a moment of loss. It was an opportunity. A door closing in one place had just opened in another, in the most unlikely of rooms. A shared hospital ward. I turned the phone screen toward him again, the cruel words glowing against the sterile white walls. My voice was steady now. Maybe it's time I stopped being loyal to the wrong people. His eyes narrowed, but there was a flicker of a smile. Now that, he said, is something we should talk about. At that moment, I understood. Edward Collins had not just fired me. He had set the stage for his own downfall. He didn't know it yet, but the game had already shifted, and I wasn't going to play by his rules anymore. The next morning, the smell of antiseptic filled the room, mingling with the faint aroma of burnt coffee from a nurse's cup left on the counter. My body ached from the surgery, but it was nothing compared to the ache in my pride. I lay there staring at the ceiling tiles, replaying Edward's text in my mind like a broken record. Unreliable employees like you don't deserve a place here. For 7 years, I had bled for that company. I had canceled vacations, missed weddings, even skipped my niece's first birthday to finalize a contract in Toronto. And Edward had dismissed it all with 3 sentences on a screen. I turned my head. Daniel Whitmore was awake, propped against his pillows with a notepad on his lap. He looked more like a man in a boardroom than a patient recovering from surgery. His pen moved quickly across the page, then stopped as if he'd sensed me watching. "You didn't sleep much," he said without looking up. "No," I admitted. "Hard to when your entire career just goes up in smoke." He glanced at me, his expression calm, analytical. "Not smoke." Opportunity, I gave a short, humorless laugh. "That's one way to spin it." "Not spin," he corrected softly. "Perspective." "Tell me something, Melissa. How many clients did you personally manage at Holstrom?" The question caught me off guard. Directly? 9 major accounts. Indirectly, 25, maybe 30. "And how much revenue do those accounts represent?" I hesitated. This was the kind of information Edward would kill me for sharing. But then again, Edward had already discarded me. What loyalty did I owe him now? "About 45 million annually," I said. Daniel's eyebrow arched just slightly. "And they trusted you?" I thought of late-night calls with CFOs panicking over deadlines, the quiet thanks from executives after I solved crises that could have cost them millions. Trust wasn't even the right word. Many of them had built their expansion plans around my advice. "They trusted me," I said firmly. Daniel set his pen down and leaned back. For a long moment, he studied me, his eyes weighing possibilities. Finally, he spoke. "Melissa, I'm going to be direct. Arcus has been trying to penetrate Holstrom's client base for years, but what we lacked wasn't strategy or resources. It was someone like you. Someone who understands both the numbers and the people behind them. If you were to walk through our doors tomorrow, I can promise you 2 things. Freedom from Edward's shadow and the authority to build something of your own." My breath caught. It sounded too perfect, too sudden. "Are you offering me a job? Here? In a hospital bed?" He smiled faintly. "Opportunities don't wait for perfect circumstances. You know that better than anyone." My mind spun. It felt reckless, almost surreal. But deep down, I knew he was right. I had never been a cog in Edward's machine. I had been the engine, and Edward had cut me loose without realizing I could power something else entirely. Still, fear gnawed at me. Edward will come after me. He'll claim non-compete. He'll threaten lawsuits. Daniel nodded. He'll bluster, of course. Men like him always do, but tell me, where is Arcus headquartered? New York. And Holstrom? Chicago. He spread his hands. Different jurisdictions, and more importantly, courts rarely enforce non-competes when someone is fired without cause. You're free, Melissa. Freer than you realize. For the first time since the text, I felt a flicker of hope. I imagined Edward's face when he realized his attempt to humiliate me had opened the door for his fiercest rival. I imagined Trevor, his hand-picked protege, fumbling through client calls he didn't understand. Daniel picked up his pen again. "Think carefully," he said. "I don't want an answer out of anger. But I do want you to see this moment for what it is. You have leverage. Your boss thought he was ending your career, but he may have just launched it." The nurse came in then, fussing with IV bags, breaking the intensity of the moment. But Daniel's words kept echoing in my mind long after she left. That afternoon, I called my husband, Mark. His voice was strained with worry. "How are you holding up?" "I'll survive," I said. "But, Mark, something unexpected happened." "You're not going to believe who's in the bed next to me." When I told him, he was silent for a beat, then let out a low whistle. "If that's not fate, I don't know what is." I smiled for the first time in days. Maybe it was fate. Or maybe it was just Edward's arrogance catching up with him. Either way, the ground beneath me was shifting. That night, as the ward lights dimmed and the hospital fell into uneasy silence, I drafted a list on the back of my discharge papers. Names, phone numbers, companies, people who had trusted me, depended on me, clients who wouldn't tolerate being handed off to Edward's nephew or some inexperienced replacement. By the time I put the pen down, I realized something simple and undeniable. Edward hadn't just fired me. He had freed me, and soon he would regret it. The following Tuesday, I was discharged. The nurse helped me into my coat, the stiffness in my abdomen reminding me with each step that I wasn't ready for a fight, at least not physically. But my mind had never been sharper. Daniel had been discharged the day before. Before leaving, he'd leaned over and said quietly, "I'll have my office call you. Rest for now, but don't waste time. Opportunities have an expiration date." That sentence replayed in my head as Mark wheeled me toward the sliding hospital doors. Outside, the February air was sharp, biting through my scarf, but it woke me up. I felt alive again. Not as someone discarded, but as someone about to begin something dangerous and new. At home, I found a small envelope taped to my apartment door. Inside was a note, handwritten in neat script. "Melissa, I meant what I said. Call this number when you're ready." Underneath was a business card embossed with the Arcus Partners logo. I sat at the kitchen table, the card between my fingers. Part of me hesitated. Joining a competitor could burn bridges forever. Edward would brand me disloyal. Rumors would spread. But then I thought of his text, the cold finality of it, and I laughed bitterly. He had already burned the bridge. I owed him nothing. That night, after Mark had gone to bed, I dialed the number. A woman's calm voice answered, "Arcus Partners." "This is Lydia." I cleared my throat. "This is Melissa Carter." Daniel Whitmore told me to call. There was a pause, then her tone shifted to something warmer. "Of course, Ms. Carter, Mr. Whitmore is expecting you. Can you come in on Thursday?" Thursday. Just 3 days after being discharged from the hospital. My body still felt weak, but my pride wouldn't allow me to delay. "Yes," I said. "I'll be there." Thursday morning, I walked into Arcus Partners' New York office. The lobby gleamed with polished marble and glass, everything about it radiating confidence. Lydia met me at the reception desk, her smile practiced but genuine. "Mr. Whitmore is waiting." Daniel was seated in a conference room overlooking the Hudson River. He rose when I entered, extending his hand like we were meeting at a gala, not after shared pain in hospital gowns. "Melissa," he said warmly, "I'm glad you came." I sank into the chair across from him, my pulse racing. "I don't want to waste your time," I said. "So let's be clear. I'm not here to gossip about Holstrom. I'm here because I know my clients. They trust me. And if Edward thinks he can shuffle them off to someone else, he's in for a rude awakening." Daniel studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Good. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were contract drafts, compensation figures, even equity options. It was more generous than anything Edward had ever offered. But what made my heart catch wasn't the salary. It was the title: Vice President, North American Client Strategy. My throat tightened. This is more than I expected. You've been underestimated for too long, Daniel said simply. I don't make that mistake twice. I signed that afternoon. My hand trembled as I wrote my name, not from fear, but from the sheer weight of what it meant. The following week, I made my first calls. Carefully, quietly, I reached out to 3 clients I trusted most. I didn't try to sell them anything. I simply told them the truth. That Edward had let me go. That I was now with Arcus. That I would still be there for them. To my surprise, none of them hesitated. If you're at Arcus, we want to be at Arcus, one executive said bluntly. Another added, Edward's nephew called us last week. We ended the call early. He didn't even know our project timelines. By the end of the week, 2 firms had formally requested contract discussions with Arcus. Nothing signed yet, but the momentum had begun. Edward must have sensed something. On Friday afternoon, my phone buzzed with a number I hadn't seen in days. Against my better judgment, I answered. Melissa. His voice was clipped, rushed. I hear you've been making calls. Is that true? I let the silence stretch just long enough to make him uncomfortable. Edward, you fired me. You told me I was unreliable. What did you think I'd do? Crawl into a hole? You're jeopardizing everything we built, he snapped. No, Edward, I said, my tone steady. You jeopardized it when you fired the person your clients trusted most. I'm just giving them options. His breathing grew sharp, almost panicked. This is a mistake. You'll regret this. I ended the call without replying. For the first time in years, his words didn't scare me. That night, as I sat at my kitchen table with the contract folder from Arcus open beside me, I realized something. Edward thought he'd cut me loose, but really, he'd handed me leverage he could never take back. The first cracks were showing, and once clients started to move, there would be no stopping the collapse. By the time I settled into Arcus, I had a badge, a corner desk, and a stack of papers waiting for me in legal. No handshakes, no grand speeches. Just a quiet conference room, a pot of coffee, and Arcus's general counsel, Priya Kapoor. I'm here to keep you safe, she said, folding her hands. Ground rules. You bring no documents from Holstrom. You share nothing proprietary. You work from memory and public information only. If a client calls you, we take the call. If you're tempted to call first, you call me instead. I nodded. Understood. She gave me a small smile. Good. Because Edward will try to claim theft. But the facts are simple. You were fired without cause. Your relationships are human capital, not company property. That distinction matters. It felt like a shield. For the first time since the hospital, I wasn't reacting. I was preparing. We prioritized a short list. Clients who had written my name directly into their contracts. Priya drafted a simple announcement for me to share publicly. After 7 years at Holstrom, I'm excited to join Arcus Partners as Vice President, North American Client Strategy. No digs, no bitterness, just a status change. When I posted it, the response came quickly. The first call was from Angela Chang at North River Manufacturing. Melissa, I just saw your update. We were told you needed extended leave and wouldn't be on our account. Is that true? I'm no longer with Holstrom, I said carefully. I've joined Arcus. Angela didn't hesitate. Then we're invoking the key person clause. Our board approved it when we signed. Have Arcus send over a proposal. We'll move this quarter if you can guarantee continuity. Soon after, Easton Bio's COO reached out by email. Their message was short and direct. We require stability and senior oversight. If Melissa Carter is no longer with Holstrom, please advise how she can continue leading our work from Arcus. My hands trembled as I read. Not from fear, but from how fast the shift had begun. By the end of the day, 3 more clients had asked for meetings. Nobody was angry. Nobody dramatic. Just pragmatic questions about stability, continuity, and trust. Exactly the kind of conversations I'd built my career on. Edward, of course, didn't do pragmatic. My phone filled with missed calls from his number, followed by a text. Cease immediately. You are in violation of your non-solicit. Our counsel will be in touch. His attorney followed with a furious email. Priya drafted a reply that was calm and surgical. Our client was terminated without cause. She has not solicited. Clients contacted her after a lawful announcement. Please direct future communications to counsel. No emotion, just precision. That evening, my husband asked quietly, "Does he still scare you?" He used to, I admitted. Now I just feel finished with him. The next day, the first formal termination letter arrived. North River's legal team cited the key person clause and copied Arcus. It wasn't emotional. It read like weather. Facts, not feelings. Edward finally got me on the phone. His voice was brittle. What are you doing? You can't move our book. This is theft. You fired me, Edward. Clients are making their own choices. You think you can run to Whitmore and gut what we built? I'll bury you in court. Then speak to Priya, I said evenly. You won't survive this business. He snapped. People remember disloyalty. Then they'll remember yours too. I hung up before he could finish. My hands shook, but not from fear. His power over me had evaporated. Soon after, Meridian Logistics requested a transition discussion. Their VP, Valentina Morales, was blunt. We were bounced between 2 junior analysts last week who couldn't answer basic questions. If you're leading at Arcus, we'll follow. If not, we pause until we find someone who understands us. That night, I got a call I didn't expect. From Dana Patel, Holstrom's senior project manager. Her voice was low, urgent. I shouldn't be doing this, but you need to know. Edward told IT to forward your client inbox to his nephew. He had us reissue SOWs with your name removed. He's pushing unauthorized change orders to inflate revenue. My stomach sank. Dana, that's fraud. I know. I've documented everything. I'm not protecting him. Not after what he did to you, I warned her to be careful, but inside I felt something solidify. This wasn't just incompetence anymore. It was desperation. By the end of the week, Easton Bio's termination letter landed, and Edward himself stormed Arcus's lobby, demanding to see me. Daniel intercepted him calmly. From the mezzanine, I watched as Edward raged, his face red, his gestures wild. She's finished, he shouted, pointing up toward me. Hear me? Finished. Daniel didn't even raise his voice. You fired her in a hospital bed. Clients trust her, not you. They're choosing where to go. Security escorted Edward out. He twisted once to glare at me, his eyes glassy with something that looked almost like panic. Word spread quickly after that. Colleagues messaged me quietly, asking what had really happened. I stuck to the truth. I had been terminated without cause, and I was now with Arcus. Nothing more, nothing less. By the week's end, North River had signed with Arcus, Easton Bio's counsel approved our draft, and Meridian was preparing to transition. Edward's voicemails grew stranger, pleading one minute, threatening the next. I stopped listening to them. Then Dana called again. Emergency board meeting. Audit flagged unauthorized change orders. They're asking how we lost 3 anchor accounts in days. I looked out over the city. The skyline was the same, but I knew everything beneath it had shifted. He's going to unravel, Dana whispered. Be ready. I am, I said. and for the first time, I truly believed it. 2 weeks later, I was back in Arcus's office, standing at the window overlooking the city. The skyline stretched endlessly, calm and indifferent, while my phone buzzed nonstop with updates from clients, lawyers, and colleagues. Holstrom was crumbling. North River, Easton Bio, and Meridian had all finalized their exits. 2 more contracts were in the process of being transferred. Each conversation felt the same: polite, pragmatic, but decisive. These weren't betrayals. They were corrections. Clients simply followed the trust they had built over years. Dana called again. Her voice carried the weight of exhaustion. Edward is barely holding it together. The board demanded an explanation about the missing revenue. The auditors found emails where he backdated Trevor's employment records and approved unverified expenses. It's bad, Melissa. Really bad. I closed my eyes, letting her words sink in. This wasn't how I imagined things would end. A part of me thought Edward would claw his way back, or at least manage to land on his feet. But from what Dana described, he was cornered, and everyone knew it. The following Friday, word reached us officially. Edward Collins had been removed as CEO. The board cited loss of confidence in leadership and failure to protect client relationships. Trevor had resigned the same day, leaving behind a trail of panicked emails no one bothered to answer. That night, Mark poured us 2 glasses of wine in the kitchen. He raised his glass, but his expression was thoughtful rather than celebratory. "You don't look happy," he said. I swirled the wine slowly, watching the reflection in the glass. I'm not sure happiness is the word. Relief, maybe. "You beat him," Mark reminded me. "He fired you at your lowest moment. And now? Look where you are." I nodded, but I felt the truth gnawing at me. Destroying someone else never truly feels like victory. It felt like cleaning up a mess that should never have been made. The next morning, I received a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Melissa." Edward's voice was unrecognizable, hoarse, stripped of authority. "They've ruined me." "You've ruined me. I didn't speak." "You could have walked away," he continued, his tone trembling between anger and despair. "But you had to humiliate me." After everything I gave you, I finally answered, my voice quiet but steady. "You didn't give me anything, Edward. I earned it, and you tried to take it away with a text message while I was lying in a hospital bed. That's not leadership. That's cowardice." For a moment, the line was silent except for his unsteady breathing. Then he muttered, almost to himself, "Maybe you're right," and hung up. I stared at the phone for a long time. That was the last time I ever heard his voice. In the months that followed, Arcus grew faster than any of us expected. With the influx of new clients, we opened offices in Chicago and Dallas. Daniel kept his promise. He gave me autonomy, respect, and space to lead without constant interference. For the first time in my career, I wasn't fighting to be heard. I was simply doing the work, and the results spoke louder than any boardroom politics ever could. One evening, after a particularly long day, I walked into our apartment and found Mark cooking dinner. The smell of garlic and herbs filled the kitchen. He looked up and smiled. "So, Vice President Carter, how does it feel to be building something new?" I set my bag down, slipping into the comfort of home. "It feels different. Like it's finally mine. Not borrowed, not conditional." He kissed my forehead. "That's because you stopped giving loyalty to people who didn't deserve it." His words stuck with me. Loyalty. It had been both my strength and my downfall. I gave it freely, even to people who saw it as weakness. But the truth was simple. Loyalty is powerful only when it's mutual. When it becomes one-sided, it turns into chains. 6 months later, I received a message from Dana. "Just thought you'd like to know. Edward's been blacklisted from 3 major firms. Nobody wants to touch him. Word spreads fast in this industry." I didn't reply right away. Instead, I looked around my new office at Arcus. The glass walls, the hum of a growing team, the steady rhythm of work I actually believed in. Then I typed back, "Thank you for telling me. I hope you're doing well." I left it at that. When I think back to that hospital bed, to the text that ripped the ground out from under me, I realize now it wasn't the end. It was the beginning. Edward thought he was discarding me. What he really did was set me free. And the message I carry from all of this is simple. Never let someone else decide your worth. Jobs, titles, companies, they can vanish in a moment. What remains is your work, your integrity, and the trust you build with people. Those are things no one can fire you from. Edward lost everything because he never understood that. I gained everything because I finally did.